want to briefly tell you a story about how my involvement with this project. A friend of mine, Gazahin, one day, he came and he said, "You always talk about Ethiopian community, and you have to talk to this person." After some dialogue between me and Gazu, he convinced me and he said, "This is not a request." So I called Vicky and we got to know each other, and Charles, her husband, and their son. And one thing led to another, and we found out that my late wife, Vicky, and Charles went to the same school in Hawaii. And that made it even interesting. So, to make things shorter, we had a gathering, a couple of gatherings, at my house, at her house, and we got some Ethiopians so that Vicky can engage with us. And then two of them are not here today, and they're so rest in peace, but they were all-timers. They came in the summer. So the group was a very good group. One of them was Amdi was one of them. Tasfai is one of them, and Tasfai, and from Sister City, will come late, and we started that conversation. However, Vicky has already started going around and interviewing and knowing the environment. And one of the guys, a person who was at the dinner, Makone Imam, said, "Would we do it? You know, somebody, not an Ethiopian, is writing about us. Would we do it?" That was a very smart question, because would we Ethiopians do it? You know, about Salvadorans, about Koreans, about another community? No. And here we have Vicky, curious about the change that is happening in Silver Spring, trying to know about Ethiopians, trying to know individually, in person, interviewing them, going to their places. I mean, this is like years and years of work. And Vicky, thank you very much for that. Yeah.
My privilege.
Yeah, we were like Makonnen was really asked this a question like somebody's writing about us. Now about Silver Spring, both Makonnen and Atohaide, who was also an old timer, remembered what happened in the 18th street. That's where Ethiopians used to hang around, and they said nothing now in the 18th street. And all of us have that experience that anytime we want anything got to do with Ethiopian stores, we used to go down to 18th Street. There is nothing now. But Silver Spring, 20 years ago, if I may use the word, I'm sorry for the old timers, but it was like nothing was happening. It was deserted. Today, at any corner in Silver Spring, you find not only restaurants, but convenience stores, hairdressers, driving schools, computer lawyers, all kinds of things to Ethiopians, you know, get together. And Vicky noticed that. I mean, before anybody, I was coming every day, I didn't notice it. But somebody, an outsider, not an Ethiopian, you know, wanting to see the story behind each and every individual business. So I can give you an example about this establishment itself. It was here that the first discussion about sister cities took place. There were groups of 9 different African countries sitting here, from Sierra Leone, from Gabon, Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopians, you know, and we got to know each other with, you know, not only Ethiopians, but other Africans. And finally, Ethiopia won the debate in Montgomery County, it became a sister city. And then the discussion started again, and then we organized the Ethiopian Community Center. And then the discussion started. Here in this establishment, today we have the Ethiopian Chamber of Commerce. And the discussion continued We have now the Ethiopian Youth League, soccer. So the community was brought by these establishments. These establishments created an environment of employment, major businesses, taxpayers. And I happened to be at one time a member of the Silver Spring Advisory Board, and I was so happy to hear from the chief of the Montgomery Police saying that the crowd in general is peaceful. No gangs, no major crimes. I mean, there are crimes, but no organized crimes. And the police are saying, it's a relatively easy community to deal with. And that makes me and other Africans happy. Today, you can sit outside here. One time, me and Atohale was not around, were focusing on language. What are we hearing? So irrespective of Ethiopian language, we were listening to Spanish, Portuguese, Swahili, West African, French. I mean, you name it, you just, So this Silver Spring became a center of different ethnicities, not only Ethiopians. And this happened because of establishments. And at this, I just want to recognize Solomon, for example, a pioneer in this environment. Provided this environment for all these discussions to take place. Like I said, the sister cities, the community center, the chamber of commerce and everything would not have been possible if we had not come together. We came together because of these establishments. And now, these establishments have made a tremendous change in the cultural landscape of Silver Spring. And that is what focuses on Vicky. Vicky not only went to these restaurants or businesses and talked to them, she made a trip with her husband to Ethiopia. Can you imagine 7,000 miles away and saying, who are these people? What is their culture? To see, to feel, to understand. That's a big effort. And I remember when Vicky was preparing for that trip, the encouragement that she got from me, from Yasin, and I really admire the determination. Would I go to El Salvador? Would I go to the Philippines to study Filipinos' life? Would I have that determination? Maybe not. But Vicky had that determination, and I really admire that. Anyway, again, my late wife, her husband went to school. That even made the friendship much more. It gave it depth. And Vicky came back and she called and she said, "I'm done. I want to present it." So immediately my thought was, Gaza, he started it. Gaza, I want to thank you for introducing me, Vicky, and with this journey. Now, this is the story about how Ethiopians or Ethiopian businesses made a difference in Silver Spring. I hope people would understand, would realize, and I hope, and the late Ato Haile and Makonima were saying, one of their worries is that they worried it won't happen again, like what happened in 18th Street. And I hope it will continue. I hope Solomon will stay. I hope other people will follow his step. With that, I want to thank everybody, and I want to bring Vicky. Thank you.
Wow, what a story. Thank you so much, Abdul, and everyone here today. And those who are not here, particularly Marianne and those who have are no longer here with us. I wanted to stress a couple of things that, do you mind if I sit? I will be happy to make my voice louder for everyone to hear me. But there are two things that I wanted to just add in addition to what Abdul had said. One is that this is a story of a place of people like ourselves, Ethiopians and other immigrants from various corners of the globe. In 2010, in the census statistics will tell you that Montgomery County has become what was then called by statisticians a majority-minority jurisdiction. Why? Because 1 out of every 3 adults living in Montgomery County was born outside the United States. Me and everyone, many of those around here included. So that's one. That should tell us something about the county that we live in. The second part of this is that I was not interested, and I keep telling these people, about the broad demographic data. I was interested in the stories, the individual stories that you guys have brought with you and continue to live, the stories that live within your hearts, how you came here, what kinds of challenges that you have faced, and how you all became eventually Americans. One of the things that I had always been asked by you-know-who, you are in the room right now, is that, why the hell are you interested in us? And it's a fair question. It really is a fair question. And I'll try to answer it the best I can, although I'm not sure that I will satisfy you. The first one was, like many of you, I came from a place growing up under a repressive regime, a dictatorship, which hopefully we will not reach here in this country at this time. So I felt a common connection to people who have suffered, who have endured these kinds of challenges in their home countries. So forced exits it's a very fascinating concept to me. Then from about 2009 to 2012, my husband, who worked at the World Bank, was transferred to Sydney, Australia. And while there, I worked at a refugee organization. And so the story of displaced peoples really was very, intrigued me a lot. And I told myself that someday I'm gonna write about this. Well, we came home here, and Silver Spring was no longer the Silver Spring I knew, because I had been a long time Tacoma Park resident from the mid-1980s. And all around me, and the impetus for that was, I took my dry cleaning at my favorite Vietnamese dry cleaning place on Silver Spring Avenue. And the guy said, come back for them in a week. So 2 days later, he calls me and he says, you gotta pick up your stuff. I said, you told me to pick them up in a week. And he says, I'm closing. And 2 months or so later, what the closed Vietnamese dry cleaner was now an Ethiopian business. And you know which one it is? Caldi's. That used to be a Vietnamese dry cleaner. It's where I took my dry cleaning. And that was when I realized, oh my God, this is not the same Silver Spring that I used to know when I lived here. So that's the other reason for my interest. But the third and most important reason for me is that we really are not any more different from each other. And I think that is exactly what makes this county the way it is, very welcoming of people who come from different parts of the world. And so I thought to record these changes and these stories will be part of history of this place long after we are all gone. And I thank you all for sharing your stories. I have to admit it wasn't always easy, as you will probably see from reading the book. But anyway, so here it is. I'm sorry, this is my publisher's copy, so it says not for resale, but this is where I'm going to read parts of the book. So what I'll do is, I will give you a sense of the different chapters of people that figure in the book. Men, women, young people, and then I will also read from the place about Silver Spring, which I think is very important because Silver Spring is one of those places that are very dear to all of us here. And then I will end it with my going to Ethiopia. Sounds good? So I will read from here the very first woman who agreed to meet with me. And I gave her, oh, by the way, because of what was happening in Ethiopia at the time that I was doing my research and following you guys around, I thought it best to change all the names of those that figured in the book. And sometimes, and I say this in the author's note, that I actually even changed some of the characteristics that may identify the person. So this is my first meeting with the very first person who said yes to me. I arrived early and sat on an armchair near the entrance. Soon a woman exuding cosmopolitan flair walked toward me. A knitted, clingy dress woven of metallic white and gray threads hugged her full figure. She topped the dress with a waist-length beige jacket, while knee-high boots completed her attire. Rubbing her eyes and grimacing before plunking into the armchair across from me, she said, "I'm sorry, I'm late. I have a long commute to and from work. Tonight, I waited a long time for the bus after the subway ride from Northern Virginia." I asked if she wanted a drink. She shook her head and smiled. Crossing her legs and straightening her skirt, she put her hands in her lap, looked at me, and ready to talk. Zaina, a journalist, lost favor with the EPRDF government. She wasted no time in saying when she came to America, but not why. The first thing I did after coming here was to become legal, she said. I waited to hear more. Becoming legal? What did she mean? Her voice betrayed no unpleasant timbre, no trace of sadness or sentimentality. I continued waiting, but the words didn't come. She gazed at the floor and looked uncertain. Perhaps she did not mean to share this. I asked about her family instead. With the communists in power, Ethiopian-Russian relations were at an all-time high. They dispatched young Ethiopians to study in the Soviet Union. Zaina spent 6 years in Moscow, first learning Russian and then completing an undergraduate degree in communications. I told her my degree was in the same field. This put her further at ease. 2 sons, same degree, a growing connection between us, I thought. She gave me another fetching smile, something I would come to associate with her. The initial apprehension I felt melted away. I noticed the big pearls dangling from her ears and the simple hairpin holding her henna'd hair with wisps of it falling along the sides of her face. Okay, I will end it there so that you will know more about her story later. This next one that I would like to read is from a young man who came here when he was 19 years old. Only 19 years old, Iskander landed in Washington when the city basked in sunny but mild temperatures with the lingering winter cold visiting only at night. It was early April 1968. In the skies above, a plane from Addis Ababa carrying the young man was about to land at Washington National Airport. From his window seat, Iskander craned his neck, looked down, and saw buildings, sun green trees, and a scattering of brown ones, their leaves having fallen to the earth below. What puzzled him were the swells of billowing packets of black and gray smoke mingling among the clouds. As the plane continued its descent, he gaped at the reddish, yellowish glow of fires. He didn't know where the fires were coming from or why. When he arrived at the place that was to be his home for the next 2 months, he turned on the television to watch the news. Tuning in, he learned he arrived on the day an important man in America's history had been killed. A gunman shot the civil rights leader, Martin Luther King Jr., as he stood by his hotel room balcony in Memphis. The news reported street protests mere hours after this happened, and these spread to over 100 places across the country. In D.C., African American neighborhoods became horrifying scenes of destruction, looting, fires, mayhem, rampages, while in contrast, the city's wealthy enclaves were untouched. The television images shocked a first-time visitor to America. The neighborhoods where African Americans had settled since the Great Migration saw crowds smashing shop windows or setting them on fire, leaving destruction and violence in its wake. During 4 tumultuous days, Washington saw over 900 businesses destroyed, 2,000 homes lost, 1,200 people injured, and 13 people dead. I couldn't believe what I saw on TV. I wondered if this was happening in America. He looked incredulous, then said, "I won't ever forget my first lessons about African Americans and what they endured."